Now, the Tourism Department has signed an agreement with tech giant Google to enhance tourism in South Africa. The agreement was signed by Tourism Minister Patricia and Google SA Director Allistair Mokoena in Cape Town yesterday. The areas of collaboration are set to include Google providing insight into global travel trends in order to guide the department on different hospitality and tourism strategies. Let's get you a sense of what else this deal includes. Bring in Google SA Director Allistair Mokoena, joining us via our video link this morning. Great to have you on the program, Allistair. Thanks very much indeed for making time. So there's a lot of talk about the digital future and other technological advances. In layman's terms, what does this deal between the Tourism Department and Google entail?
Thanks very much and good morning to all viewers. This is very exciting for us, and this is literally us as a country playing catch up. If you go to any tourism trade events, you will see that technology is front and center of what people are using today, because we all understand that digital marketing, digital advertising is kind of the most effective way to reach people all over the world and to scale. So we've had a relationship with the Department of Tourism for some time. But shortly after the minister was appointed, she reached out and said, let's sign an MOU, let's formalize how we work. And really the first area of collaboration is about raising the level of digital maturity to ensure that there's adequate skills transfer between ourselves, also with the establishments within the tourism industry, to ensure that literally everybody has internet presence, everybody can kind of trade with anybody in the world, which is really exciting for us.
Yeah. So when we speak about Google being able to share some travel trends, how worried should people be about their personal data somehow making its way to government?
Okay, so let's think about how people plan their holidays, right? So you typically go into the internet and you search and say, I want a beach holiday, I want a safari, I want to, explore a new culture, new cuisine, and so on. And when people start searching for destinations in South Africa, we are able to aggregate that data, anonymized, obviously, because privacy is important. And with that anonymized data, we are able to help destination marketing organizations like South African Tourism, for example, with the dashboard that gives them data on where is interest coming from, what are the source markets they should be focused in their resources to. So if you want to help governments really optimize their spend, you need to increase the level of accuracy with which they target their marketing campaigns. So this is really about connecting them with relevant real-time data, and also to be able to service useful data to those potential tourists who want to come to our country. So there's respect for privacy there. The data are completely anonymized, just like you have in Google Maps, for example.
Right. I also understand that there's going to be a creation of some kind of thought leadership seminar. Where would this fit into the greater strategy?
So as part of skills transfer, we also want to commission some research and look at what is the impact of digital content, digital platforms on stimulating tourism. And we will do that research together, and the insights from there will obviously feed into the discussions around how do we drive an inclusive and sustainable tourism economy. Particularly on the back of the COVID-19 pandemic, we realized that there's a need to really accelerate economic recovery. So we need to get all the stakeholders together and say, right, here's technology, here's AI, here's digital marketing, here's automation. How do we bring all of these to bear to ensure that the standard of tourism is lifted, the level of communication is lifted, and we create incredible immersive virtual experiences before people even come to the country. So there's also a conversation around how do we use Google Arts and Culture, to drive the digitization of our cultural heritage. So how do we digitize artifacts and cultural heritage that sits in museums, for example? And that'll be part of this MOU.
I think it's be remiss of us to speak about technological advances in a country like ours without touching on the digital divide. And I can't help but wonder, where this is targeted, because within the tourism space, there have also been discussions for years now about how the sector is not necessarily keeping in mind South African tourists before thinking about ways through which we can, have a better value proposition from those coming abroad. Speak to us about some of those considerations and where you reckon this particular MOU will help plug the gaps.
Great. So I think the first point to make is domestic tourism is always bigger than international tourism, and regional tourism within the African continent is always bigger than more international tourism beyond our continent. So it's very important that charity begins at home. Now, when you look at what all of us in the ICT sector have done to accelerate digital penetration, internet penetration in our country 4 years ago was sitting at about 56% or so. In the last 4 years, it's gone up to 74%. And there's been a couple of interventions. First of all, the auctioning of spectrum, we know made a difference in terms of data cost and availability of broadband. Remember last year we announced that Google invested in a subsea cable to bring faster, cheaper, reliable internet access to our shores. Now that's kicking in. Obviously, that's also increasing internet speeds, reducing wholesale internet prices. The device manufacturers are also coming to the party in terms of reducing the cost of smartphones, so that there's now very good entry-level smartphones in the country. So it's not enough, and there's still more to be done. But I think what we're really seeing is that with more and more people coming onto the net, we need to get businesses onto the net. So if you're a guest house owner and you don't have a website, you're not on the internet, you are very limited in terms of your reach, right? So we want to make sure that all the players in the tourism industry, have as a first base internet access and connectivity. We want to make sure that we're able to create jobs by stimulating growth in the sector. We want to ensure that we get the best access to data around the world in terms of demand. So if you Tsepo Jeans, for example, a fashion brand, and you want to sell your wares all over the world, we're able to connect you with markets that have expressed demand in that space. So it's a collaborative effort to ensure that we really just bring the best of digital technology to bear on our economy.
This might be an obvious question, but briefly, Dr. Mokoena, if you can, how do you measure the success of this MOU? Are you just looking at the tourism revenue on the back of this particular agreement, or are there other matrices that you're looking out for?
So we've got a couple of pillars that define our MOU as one would do. So one would be skills development, and they would be looking at how many people are we able to train. First of all, we need to get to a place where there's a single source of truth, i.e. the database of all the players in the tourism sector. So that's where we need to start to ensure that we know who's who, so that when we start to direct interventions, we know where to go, right? And then we've got a couple of programs that we've been speaking about as Google to support SMMEs. For example, the Hustle Academy, which is a 5-day digital transformation bootcamp. So there we train about 1,500 small businesses a year. So we are able to measure impact and say, right, under skills development, here's how many thousands, hundreds and thousands we've trained. We are able to commission research and say that the insights coming out of this research have led to initiative X, Y, and Z. We are able to say, this is how we can help with the effectiveness of your marketing campaign. So if you introduce a high level of precision in terms of targeting, would-be tourists, you are reducing wastage and thereby increasing effectiveness and efficiency. In fact, in studies we've done in the past, as Google, we found that organizations and countries that have a high level of digital marketing maturity can expect about a 20% growth in revenue and a 30% reduction in their costs, because you are integrating your data sources, so it's more efficient. You're automating some processes, so it's easier to target people with programmatic media and so on and reduce wastage. You are able to get to source markets that have expressed interest as opposed to shooting in the dark and hoping for a miracle. So with this collaboration, we're really trying to sharpen our pencils so that taxpayers' money delivers much more return, and we will look at impact assessment.
Absolutely, and hopefully it all works out given what's at stake and just how widespread the benefits potentially are. Allistair Mokoena, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Appreciate your time on the AM Report. Allistair, the Director of Google South Africa.